So I was testing out how some things I've done in the past in Kerbal Space Program work in version 1.12.5. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a solar powered plane. And it seemed to me that the propeller building block was missing in this particular version of Kerbal. What you can do, however, is there appears to be electrical motors, and you can glue on propellers to electric motors. And they didn't seem to work for me for a while, but then I chose this deploy option. I wasn't even aware of that had that parameter. A lot of things has that parameter, but then I got a surprising amount of thrust when I enabled the deploy. So the next problem is it has a sort of torsional force on the entire plane to use this motor. And so what I did was I again deployed this tail fin in a certain direction so that at more or less full thrust, I have a somewhat stable scenario. What I did also is I have rotation wheels with the auto stabilizer on. So what I can do is I can kind of force the plane into a certain attitude, and that works to some level of compatibility with its current heading and airflow. So in some cases you can get into a stall because you made the plane go the opposite way as actually traveling. So here I am gaining some altitude, and then I'm going to turn the plane around. I should also point out that you can see in the upper right hand corner that the battery power is 100%. So at least for this scenario, this could go on forever. In real life, some of these parts would have to be serviced, the motor parts have to be serviced, the batteries would have to be replaced. So at this point what I can do is, instead of landing an airplane with an unstable propulsion scenario, I could just turn off the propulsion and center the tail fin. And then what I have in essence is a glider. I've tried this in Flight Simulator with planes when you have like one of two engines out, and you wouldn't really do that. No one would really do that, but in some cases it is easier to land a plane that's a glider than an unstable scenario. So the way I've been using the electrical motors is just at its maximum RPM. I know that if you right click on it, you can set a maximum RPM, and that's kind of like a throttle, but I hadn't actually been using that. I just was turning it off when I got near landing. So I started up again and took it out over the Space Center. So on the topic of single stage to orbit, in Kerbal Space Program, you can actually do that. Again, the Kerbal world is not necessarily straight analog to Earth, so you can't say that it would work on Earth. So with the mixed air breathing and solid propellant engine, what you want to do is, in air breathing mode, get as much horizontal and vertical speed as possible before you hit about 24,000, at which point it no longer works because there's no air intake. So at this point, I probably have enough speed to reach a good altitude. So instead of going way out on this side, I have to adjust the orbit by burning later. Also, I should mention that some of the fuel tanks are just jet fuel, so that you get the right ratio with the air breathing. It's really not that much. It's not that much of a difference. So at this point I made a number of orbit correcting burns. So, single stage to orbit works in Kerbal Space Program. Thanks for watching.